Hi guys. So, do you want to learn ReactJs or you are aspiring to become a ReactJs developer? So, what are the prerequisites and what should be your step-by-step process to learn ReactJs? So, I'm going to cover some important points in increase like ascending order, like what is the first step, what is the second step you should follow, and then what should you should what are the topics or what are the subjects which you should cover to become a proper React.js developer. So as you know, React.js is a front-end library, uh, and this is a open source library which was made open source by Facebook. So this is a very nice technology to have a lot of demand in the market and lot of very good competitive salary, because this is not an easy thing to learn because it require good logical skills and analytical thinking. So the people who are good in I can say aptitude analytical thinking, they make a very good salary here. So this is very good, very promising career. It can, you can assume it can be a long term career. Yet this is not going away any soon. Okay, so what should be the step by step process? It depends. It depends. Are you a fresher? Are you from non-IT background? It depends. Where do you stand as of now? But the very first thing is that do you know programming or not? If you're from computer science, you might know programming. You might know coding skills, basics things. You have that thing. But if you're from non-IT, the very first thing is to learn programming, coding. Okay, you can learn C, C++, or anything you want, whatever you want, any coding, any language is fine. But ultimately, if you want to become a React developer, then you have to learn JavaScript. So I will recommend that if you are a first time, you are from non-IT and you want to learn coding or programming for very first time, it is not necessary that you have to go and learn first C, C++ or Java or anything like that. You can directly start learning coding using JavaScript only, because this will save your time. Okay, and then you will only, because then you will understand the syntax of JavaScript and all those things, and it will save a lot of time. So I will recommend that thing if you're from non-IT. If you're from IT and you already know basics of C, C++, Java or whatever, any language, then it is very easy to learn JavaScript. Okay, but I'm assuming that you should know basic coding skills like how to write if-else statement, conditional statements, loops and while loops. You are easily able to do those things. If you're not able to do those things, you must practice those things. So this is the problem which I see, that directly we are going and learning React.js, na? We are skipping this step. We are not giving importance to these three steps, which is very important. If you really want to become a developer where you can find a job in the market, so you can't, if you go directly run React.js, it will not yield you any good. अगर आपको अच्छा रिएक्ट जेएस डेवलपर बनना है, तो फर्स्ट आप कोडिंग सीखो, कोडिंग प्रैक्टिस करो, take your time, learn JavaScript basics. First focus on programming only. If you're not able to write for statement, while statement, logical programmer, if you're not able to write, then don't expect that some company is going to give you a job, because आपका foundation is not right. So coding आपका foundation, programming is the foundation. If you're not able to code, if you're not able to write logical stuff, तो फिर company why they will take? Because React this is a it is totally a programming thing. In the front end we do coding in the front end. So अगर आपको basic coding नहीं आता है तो React जिसमें तो बहुत advanced coding होता है, तो how we will do that thing? So don't skip this thing. This is the most important thing, because these things you can learn over the time. But if your foundation is not right, you will always struggle, and companies will not prefer you. Okay, most of the time you'll face rejection. So if you don't want to face rejection, you want whatever time you are investing, it should be fruitful. So very first thing is focusing on the coding skills. Okay, so improve your coding skills. Then learn JavaScript basics. What is the syntax and all those things. Okay, so these two things are the most important thing where you have to focus first. Once you are comfortable that अच्छा अभी मेरा programming is not very advanced, but I am able to write loops, while statements, and basic Mozilla data types and all those things. Then you can go and learn the advanced JavaScript. I will say this is the advanced JavaScript. So what is advanced JavaScript? Okay, what in advanced JavaScript there are a lot of things. I have made one video if you can watch on YouTube. That what are the important JavaScript concepts? You can watch my video also. So in object-oriented JavaScript, we basically prefer what is objects, what is classes, how to inheritance happens in JavaScript. Okay, how to define a class or function. Okay, what is there are a lot of things which is covered, but that are the base which you must have before going to ReactJS. If you don't know this thing, you will never understand what is happening in the ReactJS library. Okay, so for to understand this thing, you must have this thing. If this is not there, you will always struggle. Okay, so I like this is a must. This is like not an optional thing. It is a must. And after this thing, you have to also learn. I forgot to write that thing. ES6. So what is ES6 and 7? So these are the latest. I can say kind of I can say like newer version of JavaScript. Not I will say the version is not a right word, but you can understand uh, the newer syntax which is used in JavaScript, ES6, ES7. This also you must know before you start React.js, because most of the syntax you'll find in React.js are inspired from ES6 and ES7. So first, do your basics right, understand JavaScript, oops, ES6, then only move to React.js. So first, cover your basics. Now, HTML and CSS is not very hard to understand. CSS also you don't need to know all the advanced thing. Basics also if you know is good. HTML basics, CSS basics will do, because in React.js most of the time you'll do programming. CSS also will do if you are a UI developer, but it is not necessary that you have to be a UI developer. By React developer, it means mostly they expect you to do coding at the front end level. So if you don't, even if you're weak in CSS, like web design, it is fine. Company will hire you, and they will hire a UI designer separately. It depends how company works. Some job will require you to know CSS advanced also, like a complete UI developer. Like you have to work on JavaScript also, React also, and CSS also. That is a complete UI developer, which is very hard to become, because at one time you have to master this also, programming also. But yeah, some jobs will require it, but that is not necessary. So if you know CSS basics also, that is fine. That is perfectly okay, and people are working with that thing also. Now, once you have these things, HTML, CSS basic, and how JavaScript works with HTML and all those things, the basics of that thing, then only move to React.js. Don't directly go and learn React.js. So first, make your foundation right. Once this is done, then only go and learn React.js. Now, once you come here, you learn React.js. Okay, learn the basic. What is functional component? What is class-based component? Those things, basics, and state and props. A lot of things are there. So it is a complex thing. It will take time, maybe a couple of months, at least, I guess, 2 to 3 months to understand these things. Minimum. That is the minimum. It may take you longer, but minimum it takes 2 to 3 months to understand this thing. Minimum. Once this is done, you are becoming comfortable on this thing and you want to know what is the next step. So I will highly recommend go for hooks. So what is hooks? So hooks is the latest version of React.js. Okay, so in the earlier version, hooks was not there, but right now most of the company will ask you that do you know hooks or not. So this is very highly like recommended. If you can do, you should do, because in like maximum interview you'll face this question on these things. What is Redux? Redux is also very like one of the library which is used along with React.js, and many companies uses it. And this is also like very like a lot of companies will ask you, but this is not compulsory. It is good to have. If you have it, it is good to have. But the basics are these things: React.js, HTML, oops, and even hooks. If you don't know, that is also sometimes fine, because then you know the basics of React.js. Based on that, that also you can get a job. But hooks is should have. Okay, that is it is not a must have, but should have. Redux is like a like very nice to have, but it is completely optional. Many companies like some companies will ask for this thing. Not all the job opening will be like require you to learn Redux. Okay, So this is like, I will say it is optional, but like I will recommend this thing. This is recommended too, because if you want a good job, then yeah, I will recommend to learn Redux also, it is if possible. Now then the other thing is material. What is this material UI? So this is like a what I can say, a UI framework, a UI library which have ReactJs components for different types like forms, text box, calendar. There are a lot of UI components. Ready-made is there, and tables and all those things that you can directly use in your projects. And this is also very like uh, like I will recommend you to have this thing, because this is also used in a lot of projects, Material UI or any other framework, a React.js UI framework. So this is also very good to have Material UI. You should try if possible to have learn these things. And the last part I will say, also we sometimes I see this people skipping this part, but at least you should know the basic of what is authentication, what is authorization, because as a front-end developer, you deal with back-end APIs. To call that back-end APIs, you have to sometimes pass the token and all those things. You should understand how that work. Like, if you are not authenticated, the response will not come. They will say, okay, you're not authorized for that thing. So how does this authentication work? How the token-based authentication work? How do you pass token in the header if you send a request? So these things you should explore basics of that. I'm not saying very advanced, but basic. What is token? Why we use it for authentication or authorization, how it works in React.js or any other UI, HTML, HTML and JavaScript, how does it work? So the basics should be there, and once you know the basics, then it is fine. And once you understand all these things basics, then you should try to do projects. Okay, as many projects you can do. Okay, try to do multiple projects. Okay, and it should be complex. It should not be like very simple project like a to-do app. It should be real world. It should be complex. Then only you can like showcase in your portfolio, in your resume, that okay, I've done this projects. So it should be multiple projects should do complex. It should be advanced. It should be real world. It should not be like just a to-do list or some game kind of a thing. So just try to do this thing, and if you follow this thing, you will become like you will gain the skills which will be good enough to crack the React.js interview. Even if you don't do this thing, you can crack the interview only using this thing. But the problem is that if you are a fresher, then it is fine. If you are a fresher, then can say, okay, we will hire you as an intern or an entry level engineer. So they may, if you know the basic of this thing, that is good enough for a fresher. But if you're like trying to find a job as an experienced developer, then you should do some projects. Otherwise, what will happen? Even suppose you're able to crack the interview, you learn the theoretical concept, you go through the interview question, and you're able to crack the interview. But how you will work in the company? Because in company, before prior to that, you have not never worked on projects, so you'll face a lot of issues, and sometimes company can fire you also. And I've seen this thing happening. Sometimes you can survive, many times you will not be able to survive. Okay, so don't go via that route. I will not suggest you. Always try to do some projects which are good enough, which will help you when you will try to find a new company, new projects, and you are trying to search job as an experienced developer, experienced React.js developer. So you must do some projects, so then it's become easier to survive in the next job, the new job, and make a transition. Okay, so but that is a different thing. That is, I'm not going too deep into that, how to move into search job as experienced developer if you don't know React and all those things. But I'm just giving you a hint that if you're experienced developer, if you want to move into React, just do some projects. Just don't just learn the basic and say, okay, I want a job in React. Suppose you are a PHP developer, you're an Angular developer or something like that, and you want to learn React. That is fine, you learn the basics. But if you do the project, you will have more confidence, and it is easier to like work on that. What I can say in the company. Otherwise, many times you will not able to understand what is happening because you never work with the complex project, the real world projects. And in company, we have very big projects. A lot of code is there. Many times you're not able to understand the flow and all those things because you never work on that environment. So I will suggest you if you're fresher, it's fine. Like if you know the basics, also it is good enough to get you some job. But if a fresher also do this thing, they will get a better opportunity and they will get like a job 100% if you do projects. So okay, I will not take much time. I hope this will clear many doubts of many people who are looking to become a ReactJS developer. And we'll see you meet in next video. So thank you for watching and have a nice day.